So the sixth BFSI Leadership Summit has now reached to the fireside chat for which consists like new paradigm of risk management in BFSI industry, strategies and opportunities. So for this fireside chat, we have our moderator with us, Mr. Rishikant Dubey, Chief Risk Officer, Muthoot Microfinance Limited. Joining him would be Mr. Satya Mahapatra, Senior Vice President, Risk and Analytics, Barclays Investment Bank. Very warm welcome to both of you. And also, last but not the least, Mr. Kunal Katpal, Chief Risk Officer, Hinduja Leland Finance Limited. I warm welcome to all our panelists today. And I'm handing over this fireside chat to now Mr. Rishikant Dubey for the moderation.
Yeah, thank you, Hina, for our introduction. Uh, Today, this evening, we are going to discuss on the new paradigm of the risk management in BFSI industry. Yes, there is a change in the risk management contour as well as risk management way of doing risk management in BFSI segment. This change is not a compelled change, but yes, we know that risk management is evolving. Our business itself is evolving in the BFSI segment. There is a huge requirement from the customers. There is a huge shift from the technology side, and we are also facing that with the different kind of combinations with the fintechs, involvement of the vendors, the way of doing business, the products, the processes have changed a lot. If we see the processes are changing, the way of doing business is changing, technology is coming into the picture, yes, the risk is going to change their own face. Risk is not the same risk management way, the way we are doing risk management in earlier days, whether it is credit risk or coming to the cyber security. So the risk is changing, and this gives a very huge opportunity to strategize the way we need to do the risk management in our organization. But we cannot ignore the recent events like pandemic, where the lockdowns changes the model of doing the business, changes the way we are really working from home, working from the office, and as well as there is a huge introduction of the technology piece in the our digitization of the most of the businesses happened during the recent past. So with this lockdown changing the business model, lot of risk management practices has changed, and we cannot ignore that with the introduction of all other techniques like AIML. We can say that the risk is now not only driven by the process flow or the way we are onboarding the customer or we are analyzing the customer, but it is now more towards the data. So each and every data is important now to take the decision, and when the decision making is based on the data, yes, there is a chances or there is a predictability come into the picture, and the risk management is going to play a very huge or great role. But to start with, let me start with Kunal. Kunal, we can start the discussion on the topic that in the recent time you see a lot of disruptions has happened because of the lockdowns. There is a change in the model of doing the businesses and all. How you think that really risk leadership has changed in the sense how the risk management in the field has changed their face in this current situation? Kunal.
I am sorry, I think I lost the connectivity in between.
Yeah. So Kunal, to start with, we uh, we were talking about that with the current lockdown as well as changing the business model, hybrid model where people are working from home, also working in a digital mode, as well as people are working from the office, and there is a lot of digitization happened during the recent past. How you are thinking that risk management leadership has shaped up during the recent past?
No, it's a practical question, Shikant, to start with, because that is how we are dealing with, or rather, we've got used to dealing with it in last 2 years now. People are talking about the new variant which has been there, and how things will happen. And I was recently having a chat with a group of colleagues, and I was telling him that, this pandemic is no longer a pandemic event. We are now, experienced with dealing with this event in the last 2 years. We have seen when we were unplanned, when we saw it unplanned, almost, hit on the face. And we have also seen last year when, the numbers rose to a level that, again, we all were taken to a surprise. So this particular event, if it reoccurs again, at least we will know how to deal with. At least we know how to start with it. So the leadership team, if you ask me, the way at least we have been dealing, in the way uh, through this entire pandemic is, there are connectivities which have been established to the last mile. So the first and the foremost thing which we kind of do is step up the connectivity, and ensure that the connectivity and the communication is established with the last employee of the company. Every person has to be touched upon. Secondly, the entire data which earlier used to be going on the emails, and and then people used to be working on that. Now everything is on digital mode, and people have to log into their respective areas in the software, the internal softwares, and they can basically utilize the entire data which is allocated to them. They can work upon it, and they can submit their responses, whether it is acquisition or even from a collection standpoint. The third area which I would try and pick up is the supervisory area. The supervisory area is where you will have the second line team, you will have the concurrent auditors, you will have the internal audit team, quality check guys, us, which is risk management function. All of us have also tried and changed our modus operandi in the way we used to do business. And there's now a lot of emphasis which is now on analytics, and analytics has taken the front seat. So things which we were planning to do in, say, 2018-19, this pandemic has at least ensured that to operate in the environment where you cannot touch and feel the person. Data is something that you can surely touch and feel, and you can analyze the data. So all those analytics initiatives that were planned earlier and used to get delayed, now they have all been implemented, and we can, everybody in the organization is seeing the power of analytics. And so this has basically become the third tool for the leadership team. So first and the foremost being the communication and establishing connect with the last mile. Second one being, driven through MISs and reports, which is, based on the login access that been given to them. And the third one being, the analytics, that, data is now telling the second line of defense or the third line of defense of the quality check people that, this is what they need to focus upon, so that, all the processes are very well managed and overseen as well.
Yeah, thank you, Kunal. Really, yes, there is a huge change has come for the managing the risk itself. But when we are talking about the risk management, and when we are talking about the lot of changes happened during the past 1 to 2 year, where lot of digitization has happened. So, Satya, it's a question to you. What you are thinking that in the current scenario, what are the challenges risk management is facing in the gamut, with the changing environment, with the changing regulation, as well as with the changing way of doing business?
Sure. So anticipating the unanticipated thing. So that is one of the key thing. So risk management by playbook. So that is one of the things we are going for. So the especially like the pandemic scenario. So this was kind of the scenario which we have not modeled, and so we were struggling to have approximate models which we can model the pandemic, and the behavior was also totally different from the first wave to second wave. So the closest we were initially we tried to model it like a 2008 kind of a crisis, but later on we realized it's not kind of a thing. It's not, we can't apply those kind of stress scenarios. So this playbook uh, played out differently, and this kind of epidemic or a pandemic kind of a playbook it might happen also in future also. So we should be prepared for that. So what, as a risk management, we go with different kind of playbooks. It can be like a financial contagion effect. It can be like a cyber attack with like it happened on the Bangladesh central bank. It can be a event like a Turkish coup where we had exposure in the Turkish market. So those kind of things, the playbooks. And also, let me share with my screen. So some of the use cases I can share. So how do we see where we are seeing the risk management as we see data. So more and more we see unstructured data we are trying to use in the risk management. Are you able to see my screen, Rishi?
Satya, it is not visible. And,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
you can continue.
Okay, let me try again, otherwise let me continue.
Yeah.
um, okay, can you see now, Rishi? Are you able to see now?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. We can see that.
Okay. So data speed. So on the x-axis we see unstructured data. We are moving from structured to unstructured data, and also we are moving from a batch kind of scenario to real time kind of scenario. So like batch kind of scenario, we were earlier like end of day predicting sanctioning the customer, but we are moving towards real time kind of risk scenarios. Like if I give you example, it will be like managing risk for a electronic trading or a high frequency trading where the risk happens the trade happens in around 300 to 400 milliseconds. So both the kind of scenarios we should be aware of. So we have to take both unstructured data also and also the real time. The batch and structured kind of data we are well equipped, but this kind of things we should be moving towards. Also like the various kind of big data architecture also is we see in various banks are moving towards big data architecture. So as someone said earlier, there is no AI without IA. So there cannot be any artificial intelligence without information architecture. So the information architecture, a proper information architecture with the underlying data is one of the key. So you can see that there are like CROs or the portfolio managers. So we are mostly on the left hand side, we are mostly focused, and the quants and data scientists are focused on the right hand side. And we can see we'll skip the trading part, we'll just focus on the risk. So you can see like the various kind of risk. So credit scoring is one of the areas where we see innovation. So earlier only structured data we were able to get the inputs, but now we can see a lot of other information also we are trying to get. Like if I have to credit appraisal for a unlisted company, so we also look at like promoters history, whether there's like any criminal case, and also we connect also like any defaults. It can be any defaults, like it can be EPFO defaults, it can be the GST defaults, anything. Also we can see like risk simulators and playbooks are going to be more and more frequent in future, where we're trying to simulate the various scenarios. It can be pandemic, it can be the contagion risk, or it can be localized country default. So these are the kind of things we are seeing increasing in risk. Predictive analytics, we're trying to predict the like the interest rate models or the economy models, RWA and portfolio optimization, impact of regulations on the bank's portfolio, and we're trying to optimize the risk-weighted assets. Model validations. So models are also becoming more and more important. So model risk is also kind of a principal risk now, similar to cyber risk. So you are as good as your models. So if your models are old, if your models are not, we are not updating the models, not updating the assumptions, so then it will fail. So like we have seen that in JP Morgan's London Whale incident in 2012, where because of a model issue they were not able to price the credit default swaps properly, and they had a loss of 7 billion. Back testing adaptive behavioral models. So as people start changing their behavior, the models will also learn over time and will be able to adapt quickly. So these are some of the use cases we see in the risk. And to summarize, so risk is evolving, and we have more and more uh, data and information architecture along with the business playbooks uh, will be playing an important role. And also we have to partner with more and more with new technologies, fintech startups, to get used of the unstructured data or alternate data, not only the current data we are using but also the alternate data sources we should be using in our risk models.
Yeah, thank you, Satya. Thank you, Satya. Very good insight, and it's a way that really data is going to be very important. And the next is the data is going to take over the way of doing the risk management. In the sense, our decision will be very informed decision, and we can say that there is a backing of the data on our decision. So yes, it is going to be a next for the risk management. But in the recent time, we are seeing that a lot of changes on the regulation part also. Regulator also is coming on the risk management very heavily, in the sense those are regulated entities, but the risk management was not so seen, so much emphasized in these organizations, just like that all the NBFCs, as well as if you see the cooperative banks in the BFSI segment, these were untouched, where regulation has come heavily for the risk management during seeing the pandemic situation, as well as seeing the lot of crisis, if you start from ILFS crisis to the SREI crisis. So from that point of view also, regulation has also changed. That has also pushed to do the to change the way of doing business. If you see, when the regulation changes on a risk angle, the way of doing business changes. If the way of doing business changes, again risk has a paradigm shift, and risk has to again go beyond the business. So beyond the business, or we can say that beyond the new product, new offerings, are beyond, because risk is now, Satya has correctly pointed out, risk is not only direct risk which is limited to our organization. It is not like that what we are doing that is only going to affect me. Since we are in an environment where we are having tie-up with fintechs, we are taking data from other sources, we are taking decision on the basis of other data. So there are a lot of indirect risks are also coming into our fold, which needs to be managed through different processes, policies, data analysis, and all. And in the, if you see globally also, data analytics as well as AI ML has taken a front stage, and there are a lot of benchmarking has been done on the basis of that. So Kunal, question to you, since we cannot say that we are way behind the in data analytics, AI ML and all, India is way behind. But if you see how India can be benchmarked with the global players, our global way of risk management using the AI and ML. So where we are and how it can be benchmarked. So over to you, Kunal. What is your view on this?
I think again, I'll take a clue from what Satya said. Today, there are various risks that were direct risks, which we are traditionally used to manage. But there are obviously certain indirect risks also, which have now come into picture. And Satya showed a very, very good slide over there, where model risk management is one of the key risks that the way their businesses are currently looking at it. But the question is how many well-established businesses are looking as model risk being one of the key risks for the business, while the entire credit risk portfolio of the business is not running on anything else but AI or ML or individual risk scoring models. They're all models. How are the models first of all developed? How are the models first checked whether they are the right fitment for the kind of business they are. What is the level of dependence on the structured and unstructured data, in terms of this thing, developing a model. So there are these questions which are pretty much there. I when I review models, and I've seen in the past, people have also come to me with models on certain areas where the reliance on unstructured data is far higher than the structured data. And sometimes, as a risk officer, you are in a very uncomfortable state, because you don't know what is the sanctity of data, what is the validity of that data, how much can you rely upon those data points, and there is no past track record. But the reason why those models are built, because maybe their scores, or the equation scores, when they create those models, are far better than the predictability scores of the other models, which are based on more structured data. Maybe their confidence level is far high in those unstructured data. So what I'm trying to say is that model risk management is something that I see as one of the key aspects in data analytics, which I believe in the global practices is given a lot of emphasis as compared to how it is being given as an emphasis in the Indian BFSI sector. The model risk has to be up there along with credit risk. Credit risk today, when you talk about fintechs or when you talk about any digital platform, cannot run without model risk management being an integral part of it. And so if credit risk has to be assessed, you have to see what is the level of model risk that is running on those credit decisions that were taken. And lot of things can be sorted based on that. So that is one. The second piece is, in terms of data analytics, again, in India, we are in a stage where we're seeing a lot of structured data now getting available as compared to the level which it was not there earlier. And therefore there's a boom on, certainly you see a lot of credit risk parameters getting assessed online on a seconds, or within seconds people are assessing those things, because now even the government websites are providing those kind of data, which is kind of different, because we are coming up with those kind of things. But in say markets which are dealing with lower strata of income, they who are customers who have limited digital footprint, you do not get structured data so easily. So our challenge, therefore, as an Indian market is, while the number of internet users in the world, if you see, India is in the top three. In fact, it is in top two right now. It is a second in terms of the world markets. But still, the data footprint of the lower strata of income is very limited. And therefore, the third challenge, like I said, is reliance upon a lot of unstructured data which is there. Last but not the least, all these analytics, also comes up with a very big cost of data security. And if you want to build models, you need data to validate it. And when you talk about data, you're talking about a very precious commodity. Like today, or 10 years back, people, or 15-20 years back, people used to think oil is gold. I believe, say 5 years, 10 years down the line, data is gold. And, the people who have more data will be able to have a more better predictability than and their demand will be far higher. So therefore, when the customer is giving you the responsibility of holding his not only personally identifiable information, but even sensitively personally identifiable information, we have to be very, very clear on, the data accessibility, integrity, and availability policies within the organization. Just because one wants to build a model, or do a lot of analytics, does not mean that the data is and can be freely available. And these are some of the practices that we have done very, very carefully in our company. There are certain levels of data for which even I am not authorized to give an approval, and we have ensured that the either the CEO, or even in certain cases the risk committee will give an approval for such kind of data requirements. So these are the four things that I would like to put forward.
Yeah, thank you, Kunal. Rightly put that in benchmarking with the global parameter, if you see, yes, really AI, ML or data analytics are taking the front stage, and we need to adopt that one. Yes, model management is one where really, because it's a one of our decision making tool where we are taking all the decisions on the basis of these models. Yes, these are dynamic, so we need to be very careful on the model management, whether we are changing our model with time, or whether the data on which we are developing is sufficient to take the decision. Yes, it's a we need to be moving ahead towards that. But yes, from the global point of view, we need to benchmark somewhere, and the way the fintechs are coming, the way the tie-ups are coming, and the way the decisions are made on the basis of the data which we never thought of to be used, is it used from the social media or from anywhere, whatever data is available, which is used for the model development as well as decision making. So that is the great change which is going to come, and which is already put their foot in our risk management arena. That's very true, Kunal. And now, if we talk about that, with the new pandemic, evolving situation in the risk management and all, Satya, it's a question to you. How you are looking that? What is the new normal for the credit risk management, and how you are looking at the are buckling your our whole belt and all for the 2022? How it is going to be on the credit risk side? What do you, Satya?
Let me share my screen again. Okay. So let me go further what Kunal explained. So he talked about an incident where uh, we used a lot of new models, which makes sometimes the CROs also uncomfortable because a lot of things are in black box. So what are the key components the models a good model should have? So this is part of the I have taken from the EU regulations. What are the key good models having AI or using AI or ML should have? So one is human agency and oversight. So we cannot leave everything for autonomous kind of models or machine learning. So there should be periodic supervision and also oversight on that. Second is explainability. So your models can be a black box model. It might be accurate, but if it is not able to explain to your regulator, we are not able to explain how it works. So then there's a problem. So the models can be simple, but it should be explainable. So that is one thing. Technical robustness and safety. So boundary conditions we should be able to meet. Data governance, the underlying input data which goes inside the model. Transparency. What are the key assumptions? How do we model our credit risk? Uh, Diversity, non-discrimination, and fairness. So this is becoming more and more important in credit risk nowadays. We should be able to explain why we are rejecting people for anything, and it should be fair model. Like it should not discriminate based on gender or area or any kind of racial thing. So that is quite important. So more and more banks are going for such kind of models which does not discriminate based upon those features. And in the end, accountability. So model also will become like one of the key risk for the organization. And also credit risk is evolving. So we are working. So like Barclays, we have a huge innovation center in Mumbai, Rise. So working with incubation centers, working with startups on various doing POCs using NLPs or different areas. That is one way of working. So that is also becoming more and more important. Second is risk playbook, what we already mentioned. So such kind of playbooks, besides our quantitative models, have also become more and more important. So that's how, in a brief nutshell, we see the credit risk is evolving. Over to you, Rishi.
Yeah, thank you, Satya. Yeah, great insight that really we need to manage model well. And next, as what I can infer from what you have shown and all is that next level of the credit risk management is the main. What Kunal has also justified, that model management is the next one. And second thing is that in 2022, yes, the thing will be, one is the credit risk management. It will be combined with the our digitization and cyber risk management and all. So it's from last year also we have seen that the change has happened from the cyberspace, where the way we have digitized, the attacks have increased. And the another most important field which is really coming into the picture is the cyber security, and it is going to be the next stage for the risk management if we are talking about the new changes in the risk management. So it's not only limited to the credit market and operational risk. It is now going, operational risk is taking a front stage with the cyber security risk and cyber risk. So Kunal, just last question from you for a very closing remark or very short question. What do you think that how 2022 will be on a risk management front? Just very short.
Yeah, quickly, if I would say, I think, you've already briefed it. That is exactly how we are also seeing that, operational risk is suddenly, not suddenly, I would say, it is very well known that operational risk is omnipresent, and it cuts across all the other risks, but its significance is obviously becoming huge. And, it is cutting across various risks, whether it is credit risk, where you see people or process failures which are coming in front, whether you see within model risk, what Satya said, that people negligence, and the way data accessibility has been managed. And and then last but not the least, cyber and information cyber security. So if you ask me as a CRO, these are my prime targets, when it comes top of the line, when you see operational risk management as well. Keeping a key eye on the way the credit policy implementation is happening, from a process and people standpoint, figuring out the black sheep through using the data analytics, keeping a very, very strong control and a quick and also a continuous communication with the information security team within the organization, to monitor the kind of attacks which are happening either in the external world, or even some attempts which are happening on our side, to see whether we were lucky or we were actually prepared, in terms of managing that. And lastly, like I said, doing a lot of emphasis on the human errors which are getting this thing, which are able to figure out, with the events which are happening, and see whether those human errors were really error of judgment, or whether they were basically error done by mistake, or there was some kind of a fraud management angle also which was left open. So these are the ways which I see 2022, or the top three things when it comes to risk management, and especially the operational risk management, that is a focus area for us.
Yeah, Kunal, thank you for that. So yes, risk management is, there is a huge change in the risk management, keeping in the way the business product requirements are coming. So the for me, 2022 is total change in the sense there will be more and more data driven activities are going to come in the risk management. Analytics is going to take the front stage. And second thing is that the risks which are really never discussed, like climate risk, ESG, and all these are going to in the front stage. And talks will start on all these points. So with this, if any question is there, we are open for the question. Hina?
Yeah, I think there are no questions yet from the audience, but thanks for sharing your insights, sir. It was really wonderful to hear you back, and I think my audience would have also enjoyed it. A very sensitive topic it is, but we have really gained a lot from this panel. So, with this, I would like to present a token for participation, and I would request my backend team to please present the certificates in front of the screen. Certificate for participation to Mr. Rishikant Dubey, Chief Risk Officer, Muthoot Microfinance Limited. A round of applause for you, sir.
Thank you.
Uh, and thank you very much for coming and joining us and being the moderator for a fireside chat. The certificate of participation is for Mr. Satya Mahapatra, Senior Vice President, Risk and Analytics, Barclays Investment Bank. Thank you, Mr. Satya. It was pleasure to have you on screen.
Thank you.
The next certificate is to Mr. Kunal Katpal, Chief Risk Officer, Hinduja Leland Finance Limited. Thank you, Mr. Katpal. It was pleasure to have you guys on board with us and sharing a great platform and the audience with us. Thank you so
Thank you.
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, with this, we'll move on towards the next panel discussion for the day, which is on experiments, agility, and disruption, insurance industry in the new normal world. A very sensitive topic again, and we'll be back to our audience in just 5 minutes. Till then, uh, you all can visit the booth and can drop your queries and look out for the material the clients are having on in their booths. You can download the pamphlets, have the more information about their products and solutions they are offering to us. Thank you so much. We'll be right back after a small break.